Izuku Midoriya, better known as Deku, the main protagonist of My Hero Academia. With the assistance of All Might, he was given the quirk One for All. This quirk boosts physical strength to a grand scale, but how strong is that? Welcome to the Outsiders series, where I take a character from a franchise to list and calculate their feats to see how strong they are. Now, how I usually go about this is that I just approach certain attributes one at a time, but for the sake of not spoiling those who only watch the anime, I'm going to separate to approach anime feats first and then manga feats. To start this all off, this is one of the moves that I have been so confused with when I first started watching My Hero. That's his Delaware Smash, where he flicks his finger and a large shockwave of air comes bursting through wherever he's pointing. I know that this is an anime, and I understand that certain things won't fully make sense, but they apply some logic in the franchise. It makes me question the awareness, though I happen to see something like this that exists in real life. The pistol shrimp. The shrimp locks and shoots with its claw. It shoots an air bullet underwater, creates light, and when it collapses on itself, it's the same temperature as the surface of the sun, though this is purely based off of speed, not just the strength of the claw alone. Deku's Delaware Smash does not rely on speed. One for All gives the benefit of being able to do these feats off of pure strength alone, which is odd, but it's still calculable. So, to calculate the Delaware Smash, I had to go about this in a more different way. This calc was more anime based since the anime had gone out of its way to include a lot more detail to make this possible. To first go about this, we begin with Deku alone. Deku stands at 5'5" or 1.6 meters. Taking this apart by pixel length and how shoulder widths average, his shoulder length sits at 1'3" or 0.39 meters. Now we're going to need an example of one of his Delaware Smashes. Let's go with the one at the flood zone inside of the USJ. Now we're going to need the size of the boat for this one to continue. The width of Deku's shoulders in this is 15 pixels in length. The boat itself is 846 pixels in length. To cover the full length of the boat, you'd have to multiply the length of Deku's shoulder width 56.4 times. Using the same multiplication for the real length puts the boat at 77.55 feet or 23.63 meters. The boat sits at nearly 78 feet in length and 23 feet in width. Well, why do we need to know this? We're going to go down even further for this. Now we're here with a full view of not only the boat but the giant water slide to the right of it. The boat sits at 157 pixels, and we know that it's nearly 78 feet long. From bottom to top, the water slide is 806 pixels in length. Along with that, you have the length between one of the loops to the back of the water slide too, since we're going to need that also. Going further with the math we've been providing with already, the water slide is 5.1 times longer than the boat, so you have the water slide sitting at a clean 398 feet. We also have the length between the loop and the back at 256 feet. Converting that over, you have the water slide at 121.31 meters, and you have the length of the back from the loop at 78.02 meters. We're finally here to the picture of where it all connects. So now everything that we've been using up until now has led up to the cause of this all. The underwater explosion caused by Deku's Delaware Smash. The reason why this would matter so much was given information by Deku himself. If a strong force is applied to the surface of the water, it'll spread and then converge back into the middle. You see what I was talking about earlier? The whole self-awareness thing, the actual logic that they know that exists, it's happening right here. So now I have the numbers of all the things that we need. The slide's height, the width, technically speaking, the water's height, and the water's width. The height of the slide is now 1000 pixels, and from the slide to the back is now 454 pixels. We had already established the slide width was 256 feet, and the height of the slide was 398 feet. The water in height is 757 pixels, and its width is 340 pixels. Using the height of the slide, it makes it easy to find the height of the water explosion. There's a 219 pixel difference between the slide and the height of the water, finding out that the height of the water is 299 feet, with the width of the water being 192 feet. Now, with all of the height stuff we've been working with, we can now convert this over to potential energy. Beforehand, I have to convert through cylinder volumes and density of water. With a height of 299 feet or 91.44 meters and a radius of 96 feet or 29.26 meters. Finalizing that, we have a cylinder volume sitting at 257,399 kilograms. Then we have to make this mass match its water mass, meaning that we have to add on water density. Multiplying water density and volume, we get 257,400,000 kilograms. And then to finalize this all, we just plug everything we have into the potential energy equation. The equation is PE equals m times g times h, which is potential energy equals mass times acceleration of gravity times height. The Earth's acceleration of gravity is set at 9.8 meters per second squared. So, by plugging in what we have and bringing back the height that we'd used previously, we get our potential energy of 230,815,747,562.4 joules. We have to convert this over one last time to find out where he stands in the scale, so we're converting from joules to tons of TNT. Now the final energy is at 55 tons of TNT. That's a bit above the middle of city block level. And after finally getting to this conclusion, it's kind of odd. While I did follow everything and I got here through canon height, I'm not exactly sure on middle city block level, but then I had seen Deku's flicks being used other times where it makes sense at this point. Let's take the Deku versus Todoroki fight for example. While ice has a lower density, I can say that just based off of viewing alone, there was way more ice than there was water. He also literally blows away these large quantities of ice being blasted at him back to back. This is also attacking Todoroki's ice before it could get ridiculously large in comparison to the whole tournament. Even seeing his ice like this is so crazy because it's not that difficult for him to do this. Imagine just trying to do this to buildings alone. Except you're not going to see them do that because they're heroes and not trying to damage the city. If possible, that's usually how everything's go. With everything we've gone over, this was really just the Delaware Smash alone, and these air bullets have a lot to say for themselves. Another two examples of strength coming from just one feat. With one jump, he jumps to the height of the largest type of villain bot. This villain bot stood above any of the nearby buildings, and using the windows as floors, we can get a general guesstimate of how large it is. Off of counting some windows and doing some building people comparisons using the screenshots and manga panels, you can put the buildings at around 200 feet or 61 meters, and then with the head full above those buildings, you can put the robots at around the size of 230 feet or 70 meters. So for Deku to jump up and punch the robot in the face, he would have to jump around 230 feet. I also realized something since I just noticed that this could also be a speed feat too. Aside from this anime making the moment hype and making the action longer, the leap and punch had ended up being one direct motion. Deku had pushed off of the ground to get his momentum, which led into his punch. He didn't have some type of air punch with no leverage. It also took him less than 5 seconds to travel 230 feet, which I believe contributes to a lot in his speed category. We can even see right here that it only took him 3 seconds to get in the face of the robot. To travel 230 feet in 3 seconds, you must be going around 52 miles per hour. The acceleration of Deku is 7,7893 meters per second squared. Reminder that this is just Deku jumping directly to his problem. I'm sure that full power Deku's burst with speed is fast enough to do a lot, but for now we can be fine with just 5% full cowl Deku, which is most likely subsonic. Now, since I had gone over both strength and speed in the anime, I wanted to go over durability, though here's my problem with trying to do so. I could bring up the fight with All Might with Deku and Bakugo, but along with being weighted, All Might is still holding back. We don't plan to see too many gory scenes in My Hero, but All Might is someone that can easily punch right through Deku and Bakugo. Plus, it's like, why would he do that? He's not gonna do that. So I just gotta put that off. Then I wanted to have Deku versus Bakugo, but Bakugo has hit Deku with explosions that logically should blow off some skin from his body, but it hasn't. You guys can take this as durability if need be. This isn't something I can automatically get behind, but since it's in the mechanics of the show, it's something I'm going to have to go with either way. Now, also, I know that I'd said I'd go over some manga stuff if possible, but it was going to be something we'd end up seeing in Season 3. Plus, the feat wasn't even fully on Deku, and more of exhausting his opponent's quirk in a sense. A certain one-sided big guy, if you guys read the manga, you can guess what I'm pointing at. I plan to go over more of Deku, like his newer and more recent forms, but that's for a later video, so you guys can see this as a possible Season 1 through 3 video possibly, depending on how they're going into Season 3. that's going to be it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe, even though you're probably only gonna see like one My Hero video every 2 other videos. I'll try to do more because I really do like this franchise. It's a really good franchise. Superheroes and anime. Wow, it's amazing. Wow, it's freaking great. Leave a comment for someone that you want me to go over next. I plan to do All Might, but if the majority says just go for someone else like Todoroki or something like that, I guess I'll do that. Until the next one though. So until then, peace out and Godspeed.